Okay, so kind of like I was hinting at earlier in the car, just because your rear delts are kind of a small muscle and you don't want to hurt yourself by going too heavy, doesn't mean that you shouldn't go as heavy as you can, right? Now, I understand that that could kind of cause some confusion. When I say as heavy as you can, I mean within the constraints of being able to do a good set, right? Obviously, if I tried to go as heavy as I could with dumbbell curls, then I would just try to do as much weight as I could for one rep, probably rip both biceps off, have a pretty bad time. But in the constraint of trying to go as heavy as I can for 8 reps, for 9 reps, then I think that's about the weights that you should be using. You know, when people talk about reps or they write out a workout and it says like 3 sets of dumbbell curls for 12 reps, I think people kind of forget the fact that you still have to make those sets really hard. Like for me to do a set of dumbbell curls with the 30s for 10 reps and have like another 20 reps in the tank versus a set with the 60s for 10 reps and have that pretty much be failure. I mean, for me, it seems pretty obvious. Which set do you think is better? Basic just go as heavy as you can for reps. Add weight if necessary. Okay. Let's just spam these for a while. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of overall load on the rear delts, I really don't know a movement that can beat this. I mean, I can get a good squeeze, and I can lift a pretty good amount of weight with like reverse pec deck or bent over lateral raises. But I think if I had to pick one movement for rear delts in perpetuity, I think this would be it. Now, it wouldn't be difficult for me to use a lot of traps and for me to use a lot of forearms and biceps while I do these reps, you know? And then I wouldn't really be working so much rear delts. I'd just be doing sort of my upper body, upper back, just doing an upper back row, right? So as I'm doing these, I'm really trying to focus on keeping my shoulders in the same position, right? So I'll kind of bend over a little bit. Even though I'm moving my arms like this, the center of my shoulder, you know, where my shoulder joint is sort of locked in position, I don't want that to move at all. Because when your shoulder moves back and forth like this, that's when you're getting a lot of trap activation. So I'm trying to keep my shoulders in the exact same spot, and I'm not trying to pull with my hands, right? When you think about pulling with your hands, I feel like I end up working a ton of forearms and biceps. I'm almost trying to imagine like just sending enough signals to my fingers to hold onto the weight. Honestly, I should probably be using straps. That might make this a little better, but I don't know if I really need to. But I'm trying to just hold onto my weight, like use my fingers as hooks, and I'm not even really imagining pulling the weight towards my face. If I were to kind of close my eyes, I'm kind of imagining that my whole arm is allowed to move free, and I'm just doing a movement like this, right? But since my hands are holding onto the handle, then that movement like this, which I'm kind of imagining, is turning in to this. Get it? So I really like this, but you have to be able to keep your forearms, biceps, and traps out of the equation. Let's do a few more. Okay. Yeah, a few more. Okay. Two more. Okay. One more, and then we're done. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to something. When it comes to lateral raises, how heavy should you go? And I'm not necessarily talking about a number. I mean, like, what's your max for a good set? I'd say you should probably not go so heavy that you really have to swing every rep. I'd say as heavy as you could go for legit reps, no swinging. That'll be good. But honestly, I don't know if weight is necessarily the number one factor you should be looking at with your shoulder training. At least with side laterals, because I'd be totally satisfied doing just the 30s for like, sets of, I don't know, well, 30 and just burn out getting the crazy pump. But I guess you got to figure out what kind of style of sets works best for you. So fresh, I can throw the 55s around. I'm tempted to do the 60s, but I mean, let's just stick to 55. Okay, I lied. God damn it. Okay. Good opener. Let's do like maybe 2 or 3 more with the dumbbells. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's just move on. Do a couple of sets on the side lateral machine, and then we're gonna check the pump. I'm definitely more than halfway there, side delt wise. One thing that I like, but also concerns me, is the fact that side delts are a very simple muscle group to hit, right? I'd be perfectly satisfied if all I did for my side delt workout was side laterals with the dumbbells. I'd be like, good lift, I feel fatigued, fully pumped, good burn, love it. But I feel like that simplicity also sort of, it kind of causes people to maybe treat side delts as though it's a movement which doesn't require a lot of volume. You know, I think sometimes people judge the volume of a workout based on doing like maybe 2 or 3 sets per exercise and then moving on. So if you're kind of following that logic, then if you're just doing one exercise for side delts, oh, I guess I only need to do like 3 sets and then I'm done. Oh man, I gotta say this, and take this to heart if you're somebody who's doing a real light shoulder day and your shoulders aren't ahead of the game on your build. Do not be afraid to get repetitive. You know, honestly, the only reason I'm doing this is because I want to change it up a little bit. But I wouldn't mind sitting there for fucking 10 sets of side laterals if that's what I got to do to stimulate growth. So, you know, don't treat that as something that's going to make the workout seem more boring. Just treat it as like, oh, sweet, I don't have to think about anything but getting my sets done. You know, that's just what I think about that. But machine, whole stack, burnout, same thing that I was doing over there. Okay. Okay. One more. Okay. 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 Let's check the shoulder pump. All right, let's see how we're looking shoulder wise. So for me, a shoulder pump should be pretty disproportionate, just because they're already kind of big. So when they're pumped up, they're even fucking gnarlier. But even if they're a little ahead of the game, man, it feels fucking cool to have a shoulder pump. It's kind of its own thing. It's like chest pump's cool just because well, look at me trying to tell you that pumps feel cool. Come on. I think we already know this. This is common knowledge. But oh my goodness. I mean, that's just fucking cool. Yeah, still got a couple lines floating around, some striations. I got to put on a little bit more weight for those to disappear. But, yeesh. I mean, just adds to the lat spread, adds to a side try. Oh my goodness. Back double bi. So this should be very shoulder biased. Oh my goodness. All right. What else is there? I mean, really fucking nothing. So shoulders are now fully pumped. Now I just get to move on to some forearms. So let's put the pump cover back on and get started with that. I'll say this: forearms require minimal hype. Absolute, well, okay, not absolute minimum hype. Obviously, I want to go hard, but I'd say that sort of. I guess somebody could argue that all of bodybuilding is mainly accessory movements. You know, if you think of a power lifter, they would think of doing shoulders or whatever else as accessory work. But I'd say kind of niche muscle groups like this, I'd say this is the real accessory work of bodybuilding. So it's not like I have to play a certain song and really get in the zone to do these sets. Really the only chore of doing them is to do them. But if you feel like your forearms are kind of lacking, or you kind of want to at least see what a forearm pump is like I was saying about shoulders, you can't really be afraid to get bored. You know, I'm just going to sit here for the next 10 minutes, do a set, play my phone a little bit, do another one, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until I'm done. So when it comes to forearms, I'll start with the back, all this kind of funky stuff moving around when I straighten my fingers out when I, what is this? Is this flexion? Whatever. All right, I'll start with the back. So the best way that I know how to do that is light dumbbell, like this is just a 20, pop a squat on a bench or any kind of seat hanging off your quad like this, and then just moderately controlled, just like that. You know, I'll probably do 20 reps or so. Maybe not until complete failure, but just to the point where it's really burning, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Put it down, rest a little while. So I'll just show one, and then we can move on for the back part of my forearms. Or would this be the, whatever. But like I'm saying, don't get discouraged. Just sit here for, 10, 20 minutes, allocate some time for it. And once you've gotten a really good forearm pump, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. One more thing before we move on. I'm still gonna do like 5 more of these, but don't be afraid to start light. This is a very strange movement. In day-to-day life, you're never really working these muscle groups. So if you try to go a little bit too heavy, it might kind of make your wrist a little uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to start with a 10. Don't be afraid to start with a 5. As long as you can get pumped up and they're burning, you're doing something right. But 5 more of these-ish, and then I'm gonna do some shit working this bottom part of the forearm. Okay, now back of the forearms are pumped up. Even just straightening my fingers and trying to pull them back. I mean, I don't want to say on fire, but pretty close. So now I'm gonna flip the script, and instead of doing stuff that works my forearms in this manner, I'll do some stuff that hits them this way, right? If you think this is like the flat chicken wing, now I'm trying to work that thick side. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do. I mean, I've kind of dabbled through probably at least all the main movements. Like you can stand up with a barbell behind your back and sort of do, barbell forearm curls like that. Or you can grab a straight bar on the cable and do forearm curls like this. I like that one a lot. But probably the one that I'd attribute most of my forearm growth to, I haven't been hitting them recently just because they're big enough. But when I used to hit them every arm day, this is probably the main movement I would do. Sit on a bench, long ways, grab something heavy. I mean, as heavy as you can do comfortably. And by comfortably, blah, 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 blah. By comfortably, I mean, not feeling like you're at risk of tearing something. I wouldn't want to try grabbing like the hundreds. It's nuts. But 60, it's pretty heavy, but I can do it without fear of injury. I'd say that's kind of a good grading scale on what kind of weights you should be using. So work up to it if you've never done it before. Don't just jump up to something crazy, but just kind of get into this sort of position like you're going into second gear, and then just pump them out. And it's the same thing as doing the reverse curls. I mean, with these you can probably get a little bit closer to actual muscular failure, but go till you get a good burn, put them down, switch arms, and then repeat. If one forearm is bigger than the other, for reasons I think we are aware of, but also whatever your dominant hand is, your forearm is probably going to be more developed just from writing, whatever, everything. So maybe start with the forearm that's a little smaller. For me, they used to be my left forearm. So when I would do these, I'd do 20 reps, whatever, with the left one. And if the right one could get 25, I'd still cut it at 20 so that the smaller one could catch up. But let's just get into this. I'll probably just show the first one, but I'll do probably 5 or 6, and then we can cut to the forearm pump and get out of here. Okay. Oh, shit. Yeah, 4 or 5 more. One thing that you should, well, I guess you'll find out if you do these, but as you're doing them, the dumbbell's kind of going to want to spin around in your hands. So honestly, if you don't have a couple of calluses built up, then if you do these on a consistent basis, you'll get some. But I'm going to sit here, enjoy myself, another 5 sets-ish, and then let's just jump to the forearm pump. Hopefully they're nice and veiny. All right, maybe not the absolute freakiest, but they're definitely more pumped up than before. Let's see how they're looking relative to the, oh yeah. I mean, that's a solid chunk of meat right there if I've ever seen one. Eesh. Not at the same level yet, but I mean, tricep there, forearm there. If I add an extra 5 pounds of forearm mass and an extra 5 pounds of tricep mass, then we'll be getting close to recreating this Lee Priest picture. Now all I need is Tom Platt standing behind me. I feel like I've said that analogy a couple times before, but most certainly the king of forearms. Well, could be debatable. We all know about Ramon, but let's take a seat and discuss. Let's make sure I'm still in frame. There we go. Perfect. So one thing that you kind of have to maybe get comfortable with is the fact that every lift is not going to be a high intensity. Well, obviously they should all be high intensity. They're not all going to be a crazy high energy fucking like PR set, like every set fucking 100% hype. You know, that's not how they're all going to be. Sometimes you just got lifts where the main goal really is to just kind of do it. And I don't want to say go through the motions, because obviously you should be pushing yourself. Like I was making sure I pushed myself on all those sets of forearms and all those sets of, you know, side laterals. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, training your shoulders and your forearms, it's just not a very taxing thing to do. Like apart from maybe a little bit after those really heavy sets of lateral raises with the dumbbells, you know, I was never out of breath today, right? I'm just doing my set, dealing with a burn, racking the weight, and then repeating, you know? So I think what I'm really trying to say is don't get discouraged if you feel like you're just, you know, going through the motions. Obviously push yourself, but you're still doing work. You're still getting a pump. You're still putting in working sets under the belt, which that's pretty much what we're all trying to do. If you get more and more and more good working sets, good workouts under your belt over time, I think you can expect to see at least a higher probability of progress. You know? And if you're not seeing that progress, then you got to take a step back, reassess what you're doing, maybe find some aspects of your training which are maybe not totally up to par, change them up, fix them, and then see what happens next. But shoulders, forearms, good. I'm going to go home, probably stop at Cane's on the way, make sure I'm nice and well fed and well rested. And then tomorrow's leg day, I plan on going, let's just say somebody might have to call the insane asylum. That's the goal. But let's get in the car.